One of President Trump's new executive orders on diversity and inclusion training sets a tight deadline for implementation. The new rule will go into effect November 21st. Right now, it doesn't include a window of time for contractor comments. Joe Jordan is CEO at Actuparo, former administrator of federal procurement policy. I guess the question right now, it seems to me, that contractors have, Joe, is what are the questions that we have to answer as far as the expectations that the government has? Is that a fair read?
Yeah, that is a fair read, Francis, and thanks for having me. Contractors are largely confused and surprised by this. The fact that we're now hearing the administration is going to look to issue a FAR deviation, meaning, hey, the rulemaking process, regular order is going to take too long, so we're just going to kind of skip to the end and say, here's what the active and in effect regulations are going to be until we digest those comments and maybe make edits down the road. I mean, these are pretty unprecedented steps for this type of executive order. There are certainly times where fast tracking rulemaking is appropriate. But let me give you a quick example. I was trying to think of when a FAR deviation was issued when I was at OFPP. And one of the examples that popped to mind, really the only one that first popped to mind, was DOD and NASA and others wanted to do more price competition off of GSA schedule and other multiple award IDIQs. And GSA, defending its equities on the FAR Council, said, hold on, we want to take the usual year-plus long process to run a rulemaking. And DOD, NASA, and others said, nope, sure, we could do that process, but in the meantime, we're telling our people to compete these orders, to compete these tasks, try to get better pricing, and not just accept what was kind of listed on the contract. That makes sense. That is clearly, something that benefits the American people, but this racist dog whistle is not something that needs to be fast-tracked and is leaving many vendors confused and frustrated.
There's no doubt in my mind, then, you've made it clear what your opinion is on the executive order. Mechanically, how will this work? If there is a FAR deviation issued, does that mean that each contract will not have to be modified? What do contractors, or should contractors, expect in that respect, Joe?
We'll have to see that from what comes out of the FAR Council and agencies in terms of implementation. Is it typically these sorts of things are not retroactive? You don't have to go back and modify existing contracts. Sometimes as each option year is exercised, you would add in the clause, but typically this would be forward-looking. And this is also something that's less about a vendor's performance on an individual contract and more about how the vendor conducts its internal business and HR practices. So either way, once it's final, every contractor is going to be looking, how do we do diversity inclusion training? Is there anything we do that would overtly or perhaps inadvertently trip the forbidden practices in this executive order and the subsequent regulations? And a lot of people ask me, well, but how does anybody even find out, right? Well, the Department of Labor's OFCCP, the Office of Federal Contractor Compliance Policy, has already issued its kind of hotline saying, hey, if you are aware of any contractors who are delivering these trainings or have these policies, please call this number and let us know anonymously. So again, that creates fear and confusion among the contractor workforce and ownership. So
to the point of that confusion, when I read the RFI, it didn't sound to me like the government knows what it's asking for exactly. It's basically saying to the vendors, what are you doing? And it strikes me the time that's involved to do a turnaround on this, this may become overcome by events, Joe.
I think that's fair, Francis. We are a week out from a special day in American government and politics, of course. And so I don't think that it was any surprise to see the administration want to fast track this and show it really cares about it and wants it implemented before January, whatever the electoral results might be. But that's not typically why procurement policies, be they regulations derived from an act of Congress or from an executive order, are fast-tracked. It's usually on that kind of faster timeline because there's an urgent and compelling need to promote economy and efficiency in the acquisition system due to the stipulations outlined in this act of Congress or executive order. Doesn't seem to be the case here. And like you said, neither the executive order nor the OFCCP RFI outlines a clear, kind of urgent and compelling reason that the economy and efficiency of the procurement process is being harmed currently by these practices, while I acknowledge there's disagreement on some of the specifics underlying those. And so you're right. I don't know if it will reasonably be implemented and enforceable by January should things go one way instead of another, but it's just unhelpful to have confusion in the acquisition system. And so if this was a policy that an administration duly elected wanted to push, you would expect it to go through a very thorough public comment and review period, and come out the other side with not just, contractors might not like it, might not, remove the confusion, but at least they would understand, okay, here are the things I need to do, versus a far deviation, which can sometimes sneak up on them.
20 seconds, Joe. What if I'm a vendor and I do nothing?
Well, while I can't and wouldn't give you that advice, I think continuing to promote diversity and inclusion training within your American business, be it a contractor or otherwise, is probably a good idea. And absent some clear outline of what exactly is wrong to do and what exactly the penalties are, I understand why you might do nothing, Francis.